Have you ever wondered why, the nicer you are, the more you get hurt? Why the more you give, the more people look down on you? And why cold, even cruel people, are more respected than people who are always kind? If you ever feel like this, it's not your fault. It's because you're playing a game that good people aren't taught how to win. In an ideal world, where everyone is sincere, loving and kind, kindness would always be welcomed as a precious gift. But the reality is not. The world we live in is a competitive place, where survival instincts sometimes outweigh reason, where people look at results more than motives. In a world where kindness, if not accompanied by wisdom, can easily be seen as a sign of weakness. I used to believe that if I lived a good life, did the right thing, and helped others sincerely, the world would treat me well in return. But what did I get in return? Shallow thanks, times of being taken advantage of, relationships that only lasted as long as I was valuable to them. I began to question, is there something wrong with my kindness? And then, a quote hit me. It was from Niccolò Machiavelli, a famous Renaissance political thinker. He said, "A good deed is more easily forgotten than a terrible one." That may sound cold, but if you've ever been a good person who's been hurt, you'll know how true it is. The nicer you are, the more people assume you will always be nice. The quieter you are, the more they push you. The more you try to please, the less they respect your boundaries. Not because you are wrong, but because they are learning to exploit your kindness for their own benefit. Kindness without limits will make you an easy target. You will be asked to do things no one else wants to do. You will be forced to say yes to things you don't want to do. And you will be seen as weak, simply because you don't know how to say no. We are often taught to be kind, to be forgiving, to give unconditionally, but we are not taught that sometimes kindness needs to be protected by sharp boundaries. You cannot let others drain you just because you are afraid of being called selfish. You cannot lose your self-worth just to maintain the image of a good person in the eyes of the world. You know why nice people get hurt so easily? Because they believe everyone has a heart like theirs. They don't realize that there are people who are just waiting for you to soften so they can walk all over you. There are people who see your kindness as weakness, and they take full advantage of it. Machiavelli doesn't encourage you to be cruel, but he does warn that in a world run by power and profit, blind kindness is suicidal. You must learn how to live well, without being crushed. You must learn how to give, without losing yourself. And that starts with understanding a hard truth. Not everyone deserves your kindness. Not every situation calls for your tenderness. And forgiveness isn't always noble, sometimes. Forgiveness is just another way to help a manipulator. If you still have kindness in your heart, that's great. But learn to set boundaries. Learn to say no. Remember, being kind doesn't mean always being silent, tolerant or sacrificing. Being kind is about being intentional, knowing who you give to, how much you give, and when to stop. Because if you don't set boundaries for your kindness, the world will set boundaries for you. And often, they aren't kind. I want to tell you something that will make you rethink the way you have lived your life up to now. It is this: kindness does not earn respect. It may sound counterintuitive, but if you have ever been kind, been accommodating, tried to please everyone around you, and then ended up being disrespected, You will understand this better than anyone. We are taught from a young age to be nice to people, to be kind, to speak kindly, and to avoid conflict. And yes, that makes you a likable person. But in an environment where people are competing for attention, for survival, for position, affection is not what makes people respect you. Niccolò Machiavelli once said, "People respect those who frighten them, not those who make them feel good." This quote is not an encouragement to be scary, but rather a reminder of the truth. Fear breeds caution, while unlimited kindness only makes others push you further. The sad thing is that many people will not recognize your value if you do not give them a reason to keep their distance. In the work environment, the more you are humble, the more you take on other people's work, the more you nod to all requests, you are not called kind. You are just considered easy to manipulate. And those people could be your colleagues, your boss, even your friends or relatives. Being nice without boundaries is like leaving your door open all day and hoping people will knock and not barge in. In reality, respect doesn't come from kindness. It comes from boundaries, from how you protect yourself from intrusion, from saying no when you need to, from being firm, and sometimes cold. Have you ever noticed that people who are looked up to by others are not always the nicest people? They are not always smiling. They are not always easy to talk to. But they are clear, they have principles, and they do not let anyone cross their boundaries. That makes others adjust their behavior, because they know you are not easily manipulated. Good people without power are easy victims. Why? Because they don't dare to ask for what they deserve. They don't know how to say no even when they don't agree. And worst of all, they don't fight when they should. That's why, in competitive workplaces, in calculated relationships, or even in families, good people are often left behind. No one respects you just because you are nice. They respect you because they know you are not easily manipulated. Kindness is a gift, but it is not a shield. If you do not protect it, it will be used against you by the very people you are trying to help. So if you are a good person, please don't change, but upgrade your kindness. Don't be blindly nice. Be strategic. Have boundaries. Learn to say no without feeling guilty. Dare to protect your time, energy, and values. And remember, respect doesn't come from pleasing everyone. It comes from taking a stand, being assertive, and being authentic, whether others like it or not. You don't have to be cruel, but you do have to be strong enough to not be crushed by the world just because you are kind. Kindness without strength will forever be mistaken for weakness. And once you are seen as weak, you will never get the respect you deserve. Kindness is the most beautiful gift when it is given by someone who knows how to protect himself. Have you ever wondered why you are always the one chosen to do extra work, to shoulder heavier responsibilities than others, and yet you don't get the recognition you deserve? You may think it's because you are reasonable, because you don't complain, because you are easy to cooperate with. But the bitter truth is, it's your kindness that has turned you into voluntary prey. I don't say this to stop you from being nice, but I say this to keep you sane. In any organization or community, from work to friends and family, there is a tendency to give more work to the person who complains the least. The easygoing, non-complaining, always yes you are ready people, they get all the responsibility. And then others call it trust. But the truth is, they choose you. Not because you are the best, but because you are the easiest to control. A person who is willing to work extra without asking for benefits will quickly become a place for others to unload their burdens. But the person who dares to refuse and makes clear requests will be respected. Ironically, that is how it is. The next trap of kindness is to assume that everyone is like you. You think that if you are sincere, others will treat you the same way. But Machiavelli warned very clearly, people are selfish, ungrateful, and fickle. You may not like to hear this. I don't either. But life has taught me that many people will take advantage of your kindness until you have nothing left to give, and then they disappear like they never knew you. The more you give unconditionally, without setting limits, the more you send an unconscious message: I am not valuable. Because in human psychology, what is easy to get is often seen as cheap, and your kindness, if not accompanied by clear standards, will be seen as a given, not a gift. And then the saddest thing is, you are not judged by your good intentions, but by your results. Even if you work for the team, for the good of the community, if the results are not effective, you will still be judged as incompetent. No one says, "She tried so hard." They just say, "Why did she fail?" Kindness cannot forever shield you from inefficiency, lack of boundaries, or lack of strategy. You can be kind, but you still need results. Because in the real world, good motives are no substitute for good actions. No one can survive long on good intentions alone. And perhaps the worst thing is, the more you are nice to the wrong person, the more you destroy your own self-confidence. You start to doubt that maybe being nice is stupid. Maybe I shouldn't help anyone anymore. Maybe I should be cold like them. But no, you're not wrong for being nice. You just haven't been taught how to defend your kindness strategically. You haven't been shown that kindness is only truly valuable when it's paired with wisdom and boundaries. So, start today. Check to see if you are being taken advantage of. Check to see if you are giving too much out of fear of offending. Ask yourself, am I helping this person because I want to? Or because I am being forced? And most importantly, remember, kindness shouldn't be a trap that traps you. It should be a door that opens to relationships that truly appreciate you. But for that to happen, you need to learn to say no, learn to demand respect, and learn to only give kindness to those who deserve it. Because if you don't, you'll continue to live in a cycle. Give, get taken advantage of, get disappointed, lose trust, then give again. Hoping this time will be different. But it won't be different if you don't change. You don't have to stop being kind. You just have to stop being kind to people who don't appreciate it. And when you do that, you'll see, kindness is actually a strength, not a weakness. We live in a world where people are encouraged to be nice, to be sociable, to be liked. But have you ever noticed the paradox? The people who are liked are often not the ones with real power. And the people with real power often don't need to be liked. Machiavelli, a controversial political thinker, but also one of the people who understood the nature of power best in history, once said a very famous sentence: "If you can't have both, it's better to be feared than loved." It may sound cruel, but look at the life around you. In work, in relationships, in the way people treat each other, you will see that The people who are respected are often not the nice ones. They are the ones who have a stance, have boundaries, have an aura that makes others not dare to encroach. And Machiavelli doesn't say this to make you a dictator, but to make you understand a principle of survival. Power doesn't come from how others feel about you. It comes from how you control yourself. Many people spend their lives trying to be liked. They are constantly trying to please others. They avoid conflict, and they sacrifice their opinions and even their values, all to maintain their image as nice people. But what they fail to realize is that the price of wanting to be liked is losing the ability to make cool, wise decisions, especially when the going gets tough. A person who is always afraid of what others think will not dare to tell the truth. They will not dare to set boundaries. And when it comes to choosing between being right and pleasing others, they choose the latter. That is not strength. That is dependence on the eyes of others. Machiavelli makes a very wise suggestion. Pretend to be nice, but never trust anyone completely. This may make you feel uncomfortable, especially if you are a sincere person. But think about it. How many times have you been hurt because you trusted too soon? Has someone ever made you think they were good for you, only to turn their back on you when you needed them most? Wise people may appear gentle on the outside, but they are always alert on the inside. They don't let their emotions overwhelm their reason. They know that kindness is a tool, not a religion. You can use kindness to build relationships, to open up opportunities, to connect people, but you shouldn't put your absolute faith in it as a talisman. Because if you live by your emotions, you are easily manipulated. You get angry. People will provoke you to break your concentration. You are too soft. People will know how to arouse pity to force you to give in. In Machiavelli's eyes, those who cannot control their emotions are those who give control to others. True power is not about shouting louder. It is not about winning every argument. It is about remaining calm when others lose control. It is about remaining silent when provoked. It is not letting anger, hurt, or the desire to be liked lead you into making bad decisions. So if you want to be strong, not by being cold, but by knowing yourself, controlling your emotions, and acting strategically, be kind, but not predictable. Be sincere, but not trusting. Be gentle, but don't let anyone cross your line. You don't have to make people like you, but you have to make them respect you. And respect doesn't come from smiling, it comes from being consistent, from keeping your cool, from knowing who is worthy of your trust and who isn't. When you do that, you'll see. Control isn't cruelty, it's freedom. Do you ever feel exhausted by your own kindness? Feel like you're trying to maintain an image of being nice, polite, and likable, but deep down, you're feeling empty, tired, and lost? If you find yourself always apologizing first, even when you've done nothing wrong, you may be falling into a subtle trap, the trap of unconscious compliance disguised as kindness. This is not real kindness. This is programmed kindness. When you are more afraid of being disliked than you are of losing yourself. You apologize not because you are wrong, but because you want to diffuse the situation. You fake a smile. You give in. You back down, just to avoid conflict. But have you noticed? Every time you do this, you are sending the other person a message. I am willing to sacrifice my values just to make you feel good. And that's when you lose your inner power. One of the most obvious signs that kindness is consuming you is that you don't dare to say no. There are times when you know you don't have the strength. You don't agree. You don't want to, but you still say no. Because you're afraid of being judged. Because you're afraid of disappointing others. Because you don't want to be selfish. But have you ever realized that people who dare to say no firmly are often respected more? Not because they are cold, but because they have clear boundaries. A truly kind person knows when to give and when to stop. Being kind consciously, not forced by social expectations. I used to be like you. I was afraid to say no to a coworker's request for help. For fear of being seen as lacking team spirit. I took on a job when I knew I was overworked. Just because I didn't want to disappoint anyone. I tried to help a friend in need, putting in all my time and energy, and then got blamed when things didn't go as planned. It was one of those shocks that made me realize, the more I tried to be a good person, the more I became the one who took all the blame, even when it wasn't my fault. The more I tried to save others, the more I was caught up in their endless expectations and demands. And when something went wrong, I was the first one to be blamed. Why is this? Because when you are infinitely kind, people assume that you should be. They assume that you will continue to sacrifice, to remain silent, to continue to shoulder the burden. And when you try to change, they are the ones who feel betrayed. That's when you realize you're no longer being yourself. You're maintaining an image, not you. Someone who always smiles, always is kind, always is patient, but inside, you're breaking down little by little. You don't know where the line is between kindness and self-destruction. Kindness should not be a costume you wear to please the world. It should be something you choose intentionally, consciously, and freely. Kindness is giving without expecting recognition, but also not accepting being taken advantage of. Kindness is being able to say no and still be kind. Kindness is standing up for yourself, not bowing down to maintain a false peace. If you find yourself constantly exhausted from kindness, it's time to stop and ask yourself, am I doing this because I really want to? Or because I'm afraid of being judged? And if the answer is the latter, then you need to relearn how to be kind, the way someone who loves themselves does. You don't always have to take the blame. You don't have to apologize when you're not wrong. You don't have to agree to everything just because you're afraid of offending someone. You deserve relationships where kindness is given and received equally. Because if you continue to live to maintain a good image, at some point, you will no longer know who you are. And that is the scariest thing. Kindness is a virtue, but only when it's well placed. We grow up in a world that encourages us to be kind, to help others, to be generous and forgiving. And that's true, to a certain extent. But if you've ever been hurt by your kindness, betrayed when you tried to help someone, taken advantage of because you couldn't say no, then you know. Kindness without strategy is the fastest way to get yourself into trouble. You can be a good person, but you shouldn't be a good person all the time. To all people, in all situations, there is a truth that few people dare to say directly. Being good is not always being ready. Being good does not mean always helping, always giving in, always enduring. Being good is when you know when to give and when to hold back. Being good is when you actively choose to be kind, not because you are afraid of being judged, but because you know it comes from your true inner worth. You don't need permission to live within your boundaries. You don't need to be a nodding person to maintain your nice guy image. Be kind in a way that is empowering, not a way that is begging for approval. A truly kind person knows how to say enough. They set clear conditions. They say, "I'll help you, but if you don't change, this will be the last time." They don't let their kindness turn into an unending obligation. They don't let others assume they can be there for them unconditionally. Have you been giving a lot? Fine. But stop and ask yourself, are the recipients truly grateful? Or are they asking for more? Are they changing for the better? Or are they repeating the same mistakes? If the answer is no, then you need to stop helping. Kindness is a virtue, but if you have to sacrifice your self-respect to maintain your image as a nice guy, then it's no longer a virtue, it's a loss of self. You deserve respect even if you refuse it, and you have the right to stand on your own 2 feet before reaching out to help someone else. The more you give when you're exhausted, the more likely you are to fall into a spiral of guilt, dependency, and ultimately emptiness. Give when you're strong, alert, and ready, not when you're tired, lost, or clinging to kindness to feel worthy. Another thing that many people often overlook: kindness is not for everyone. That's right, not everyone deserves your kindness. There are people who only accept your kindness as a tool for manipulation. There are people who do not appreciate what you do, and when they have the opportunity, they are ready to betray you without feeling any remorse. Machiavelli once said, "The most dangerous enemy is an old friend, because the most painful betrayal doesn't come from strangers. It comes from people who have been kind to you." So don't be naive and think that if you treat someone well, they will never hurt you. Prepare yourself from the start. Understand that one day, you will be stabbed in the back by the person you once supported. And when that happens, you don't get shocked. You don't break down. You get up, straighten your shirt, and move on, because you have lived by strategic kindness. You can be kind, you should be kind, but you must not let that kindness turn you into a victim. Be selective about who you give to. Set boundaries to protect yourself. And remember, the kindest person is not the one who gives the most. It is the one who knows who he is giving to. For what and when to stop. Kindness is only truly valuable when it comes from someone who has power. And you, if you are listening to this, are the one who has the power to choose to be kind, but right. You may be a good person, and that is admirable, but if you think that being nice is enough for the world to treat you fairly, well, unfortunately, the truth will teach you the opposite. Kindness, without intelligence, courage, and strategy, becomes a double-edged sword. Not only does it not earn you respect, it can also cause you to be taken advantage of, forgotten, and even trampled upon mercilessly. Machiavelli, who was once considered cold and cruel, was the one who said something that anyone who lives long in this life gradually realizes. You may be a strong lion, but without the cunning of a fox, you will fall into a trap. What does that mean? It means you can have a big heart, but you still need a cool head. You can be compassionate, but you can't be naive. You can want to do the right thing, but don't think everyone will play right with you. In today's world, where power and interests dominate almost every relationship. Being kind without the power to go with it is no different than offering yourself up to be prey to others. And strength here doesn't mean you have to be tough, cold, or emotionless. Strength is the ability to recognize who is being sincere and who is taking advantage. It's the strength to say no when you need to. It's the boundaries you set up to protect what's precious inside you. It's the courage to walk away from places that make you feel worthless, instead of staying just to maintain your good guy image. Be good, but not stupid. Be nice, but not blind. Give it away, but don't empty yourself. If you feel like the more you live a kinder life, the lonelier you become, it's not because you're wrong. It's because you haven't learned how to be kind. Live kindly and still stay strong. Haven't learned how to love others without abandoning yourself. Haven't learned how to set limits, not out of selfishness, but out of self-respect. Because if you don't know how to protect yourself, don't expect anyone else to do it for you. The world doesn't need more soft-hearted people pretending to be nice. The world needs people with strong hearts, people who dare to be kind, but won't let anyone take advantage of them. Dare to love, but won't let anyone take them for granted. Dare to stand up for others, but never forget to stand up for themselves. You don't need to change your heart. Just give it a coat of armor. It's a way to live in a world full of cruel rules and still maintain kindness, sanity, and an inner freedom that no one can take away. And you will see, once you live like that, people not only respect you, they're wary of you. Not because you are scary, but because you know how to live good in a wise way. That's the power of strategic kindness. And that's how you survive without getting crushed. If what I share in this video resonates with you, someone who is always kind, always trying to do the right thing, but then gets hurt, looked down upon, then you are not alone. But the important thing is, you can't go on living like this forever. It's time you learned how to strategic kindness. Start with something very simple but has the power to change your life. Click subscribe to the channel now. This is where I share insightful, practical, and inspiring insights to help you build mental toughness, control your emotions, and learn to live kindly without being trampled. If you've ever been taken advantage of because of your kindness, if you've ever been betrayed by someone you helped, if you're exhausted from always being the nice person, this is the place for you. Right finger, please like this video if you find it touches your own emotions and experiences. Right finger, share it to a friend who also needs to hear this message. Right finger and comment below. I choose to live with kindness, strategically. Let me know you are ready to change your lifestyle while keeping your heart. You deserve respect, but it won't come if you don't start respect yourself first. Sign up now and build a version with me, both hearted and cool-headed. That is it. Kindness has power.